Welcome to the Getting Real with Hilary show, where ordinary heroes tell extraordinary stories during unique and never been heard before conversations with your host, Hilary Arno Burns. Hilary's unique listening and way of asking questions results in conversations that aren't usually talked about, so you can create the life that you really want but are afraid you can't really have. We are demonstrating the greatness in the human spirit and creating a world where we all reclaim our birthright of joy, happiness, purpose, and passion. Now, here's your host, Hilary Arno Burns. Welcome to the Getting Real with Hilary show, and today I am here with a very special guest. Her name is Ashley Camp. Ashley is a 3-time blood cancer survivor, and professionally, she is a senior key account manager in dermatology. But what we're talking about today is Ashley's story and how it has led to self-awareness and really profound, I'll say a profound transformation. But we're going to let her tell you about that. Welcome, Ashley.
Hey, Hilary.
Thank
you so much for having me.
Yeah, I think we met in a course, right? Was it?
We did.
Which one? Was it?
Spiritual mastery.
Okay, good. Yeah. So Mind Valley course, we met there, and Ashley wanted to be able to tell her story. So here we go. All right. So let's go back to the beginning. Where were you born?
Where was I born? Okay. Well, I'm Canadian, so I was born in Edmonton, Alberta.
Okay.
But I now reside in the beautiful city of Vancouver on the coast.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And did you have brothers and sisters? How was your family? How was it growing up?
Yeah, I have a younger sister.
Okay.
And we're about 3 years apart. So growing up, it was great. We had a large acreage. We had a lot of outdoor time. It really helped me grow a love for nature and appreciate the world that we live in and the people that are within it and just all the experiences that we can have. So yeah, it was a really beautiful childhood.
Well, good. Okay. So, where did you end up? So anything in your childhood that you want to talk about? Anything where you had to conquer adversity, or anything like that? Or just you want to skip ahead? It's up to you.
Yeah, no, I think it brings good context to some of the things that we'll probably speak about. So even though I grew up, just very independent, playing outside, I was still naturally a pretty anxious kid. I let my surroundings control who I was. I had a hard time, not being nervous in school or feeling like I was going to get teased about. And so it was always really hard for me to feel like I had a voice, to feel like I could speak up, to feel like I could show up in the world in the way that I wanted to. And a lot of that was maybe through experience, my own doing, who knows, but it's been a wild shift to see who I was as a child, through my teenage years, through my early adult years, to where I am now based on some of the crazy experiences I've had over the past little while here.
So, and what do you think, I know a lot of people are anxious these days, especially. What do you think had you be anxious? What were you afraid of?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is just fear in general, and fear, whether it's rational or not, is really a heavy feeling, and it might not always make sense either where it's coming from. But for me, it was fear of judgment, even fear of being seen. Yet those were the things that I probably wanted to have. I wanted to be understood. I wanted to be seen. But of course, when that's a nervous feeling or something that's scary to you, it has a negative impact on the body that can live within you for a very long time and, change how you show up in the world. So for me, that was my fear. And I had a lot of it.
And was there some time when you, usually, I'm not trying to be a therapist here, but I know, for me, there were incidents where I made a decision, it goes into your subconscious, and then your subconscious runs your life, and you don't even know you made that decision,
just being criticized, I decided I wasn't okay the way I was. And so I became a people-pleasing, pleasant phony. And that's why I started getting real with Hillary,
Yeah.
because I was like, good. Hi, I'm fine. Yeah. Uh-huh. So, we all have those personalities that we take on. What do you remember and it doesn't matter, but if you remember when you decided, it was scary to be seen or judged, do you remember or no?
I wouldn't say it was a specific moment, but I know it started from a very, very young age. There was a lot of teasing and bullying and just even like explosiveness in my household and at school. So I think just from a really young age, I didn't feel super safe. And then that kind of just snowballed and snowballed into other experiences, whether or not that reality was the reality in the external world or my perceived reality, it still really consumed me. Even when I was in university, I was at the point with my anxiety where it's like I couldn't go to the grocery store alone. I had to have a friend with me. And I wasn't necessarily having any kind of, significant like mental situations in the sense that, I was taking it overly seriously. It was just something that was impacting me and I seemed to manage it well. But there was definitely like little indications where it was like that in retrospect wasn't healthy. And so for me, yeah, that's how it showed up. And I think it started from such a young age that I can't even pinpoint it.
So it was just the way it was.
Yeah. And like, that's the way I knew life, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like to see life through any other lens just did not exist for me for the longest time.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So you went to university, and what did you study? And where'd you go?
So I studied economics, and I went to what is one of the bigger universities here called UBC. I went to the Okanagan campus, so I was able to grow up in the Okanagan for a little while, which is the Canada's wine country. Very nice, yes. Yeah, and then I graduated university, and as soon as I could, decided to leave and moved to Vancouver. And yeah, that brought me into some exciting opportunities, actually working with Nordstrom at the time, and then quickly went into the organization that I'm with now and that I've been working with for the past, I think, 11 years.
Wow. And what were you, so your degree was in economics?
Yeah.
And what did you do at Nordstrom?
Nordstrom, so I was just in sales. I needed a reason to get out of Kelowna and decided to move to Vancouver. Nordstrom was opening one of their Canadian flagship stores at that time. And so I helped open the store and then transitioned into a sales role, which didn't last very long before I got recruited into my current organization.
All right. And is that the dermatology that you're in now?
Yeah. I work for a very large cosmetic company, but I manage some of the retailers that are in our medical dermatology division.
So is that products or services?
Yeah, so for us, I guess you could say consumer goods, depending on the brand that we're talking about. But anywhere from consumer good products that are within the skincare category to what we call derm into medical skincare. So we have quite a diverse range of brands and products within the division. And yeah, I work with all of them across some of our national retailers within Canada.
Cool. And you seem to like it.
I do. I love it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So there you are, loving your job in Vancouver. And what happens?
So yeah, I was in sales. I was working through my anxiety. I was running towards any fear that I had to try and get myself more comfortable speaking to people, presenting to people, just, showing up in the best way I possibly could within my role, but also within the world around me. And in doing so, I was able to move up through my organization. And I, at that time, had gotten my dream job. I was working in that role for about a year. And then that was also through the start of COVID. So my first year of my dream job at the time was also first year of COVID. So it was pretty intense, very long hours, super busy days.
And what was your dream job? What was it?
That time I was managing the sales team.
And you love that?
I did, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I did.
Right.
I always wanted to have kind of sales leadership experience.
Okay.
I've now transitioned past that role, but at that time, that was my dream job. But it was a crazy time to take on a role, especially with sales reps that were in the field. The world was shutting down. We were trying to repurpose sales reps. We didn't want to lay anyone off. We were successful in not laying anyone off. But you know, it's a lot to take on when it's literally you start the job and a week later COVID hits.
Oh my God. Wow. So were
Yeah.
people stuck at home and they weren't selling? Like how did they keep them on the payroll?
Yeah, so we kind of repurposed them in whatever ways we could find. We had them doing SEO, so search engine optimization for our ecom pages. We built a full ecom system during that time. We had them working on some analytics. We're really trying to like one, upskill their expertise, but two, just keep them working on something because we didn't want to justify having to lay anyone off, and we were successful in doing that, which is great. And then they still managed their clients. They just weren't in stores.
Wow. Oh. And people were still buying? They were buying online?
Some of the best years we've ever had. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Self-care became a thing during COVID, and
Yeah.
we were lucky to, have brands that people wanted during that time and felt that we're helping them with their skin through the stress, through the mask me, all these things. And yeah, we had some pretty incredible years.
Wow. Wow. All right. So that brings us to what year?
So that'll bring us into 2020, 2021.
Okay.
And so finish off my first year in the role, was exhausted, had worked, 16-hour days every day. And I know that was the same for a lot of us. We were, working in new environments and in different capacities. So I was just really tired, and I had a hard time getting out of bed some days. I would walk down the road and be super out of breath. I had this nasty cough that wouldn't go away, and I thought, if anything, I had pneumonia. I wasn't entirely sure. So I had gone home to Alaska for Christmas. My family is American.
Oh.
And so I had gone home to Alaska for Christmas, just wasn't feeling good. Just something was off. So I came home. I did my 2-week quarantine that I had to do at that time for traveling out of the country. And then the second that I could, I called my doctor and I told her, hey, like something's off. I don't know what it is. It's probably nothing. I'm young. I'm 28 at the time. But can I go for a blood panel? And she's like, yeah, I don't think it's anything, but I'll send you for a blood panel. So I go that day for a blood panel and think everything is normal. And then within a couple of hours, I have the lab calling me, the doctor's calling me, the hospital calling me, being like, come here immediately. Had no idea what was happening. Zero idea, completely oblivious. Like truly, you would think I would clue in, and it did not. So I took my time, got my phone charger, probably took maybe an hour to get there. And they're calling me being like, where are you? Why are you not here? Drove myself to the hospital, also, once again, not cluing in. And went into the ER room. They were waiting for me to walk through the door. They put me in a room. They ran my blood work again. They came back in, and one of the residents at the time comes in, and he's just like, have you heard the word leukemia? And I was just like, what? No. What's leukemia? And he goes on to tell me it's blood cancer. We're pretty sure you have it. What type? We're not 100% sure. We need to do a bone marrow biopsy in a couple days. But as of this moment, you are not leaving this hospital for at least the next 30 days.
Why?
Because you have to start treatment immediately. It's a super aggressive form of cancer. And yeah, they literally start treatment immediately. You get a central line in, you get a minute into beds, your immune system's super low. So being in the public is just extremely risky, let alone COVID. I mean, the hospitals were also shut down at this time. There's no visitors, no outside food, no nothing. So like literally I was stuck in a I don't know, probably a 12 by 12 room for over 30 days with no visitors, no outside food, nothing. I had to call one of my friends to come pick up my car, but I couldn't give my keys to her. So we had to like send it through 10 different people in the hospital to get her my car keys so she could drive my car home. Like that's how locked down everything was.
And you probably had no books or computer or anything with you, right?
Nope, nothing. Nothing.
Were your parents freaking out?
I think so. I mean, they tried not to show it. And I don't know. It's one of those things too, right? When you receive a diagnosis, you don't all really understand the weight of it either. Like, you know, you're not leaving, you know that you're starting chemo right away, you know that you're doing all of these things, but until you're really in it and you see how you're experiencing it, you have no idea what you're walking into.
So when you got a call from the hospital, the lab, and the doctor, you were just like, meh. Like you didn't think this is bad? Like that? You were just like, oh, okay, I'll come.
I mean, I knew it wasn't I knew it wasn't good because they're telling me to go to the hospital. But I don't, like, otherwise I was, 28, healthy. I thought, okay, yeah, it must be pneumonia. They need me to come in because probably something's in my chest or whatever it may be, and that I'll go home in like a day. That's because that's always been my experience being young and otherwise healthy, right? You go into the hospital and you leave, and that was very much not this experience.
Wow. Okay. So there you were for 30 days. Were they telling you anything or saying you're going to get better? Like, what were they saying?
Yeah, so at that point they had diagnosed me. They send off a few different things, different blood reports and bone marrow biopsies and things like that to understand what type of leukemia. And then like leukemia is a bit different than other cancers where there's not stages. There's like favorability categories depending on mutations that you have. And so that takes about a week or two to get that info back, but they start treatment regardless. So they just give you a very broad treatment, what they call induction. And so I started right away. I was just kind of chugging along, hoping for the best. And then they came in to tell me that you have AML, you have NPM1 mutation. It's a favorable mutation. We think we can get rid of it, but it's going to be hard. This is what it's going to do to your immune system. It's going to be at least 6 months. You're going to lose all your hair. You won't be able to go back into the normal world during that time. You're on isolation, amongst many, many other things. And, we'll go from there. And if we're successful, we'll monitor you. And yeah, that's what we did. And it wasn't fun.
Were you in the hospital for 6 months, another 6 months, or you got to go home?
So what they do induction, which is in the hospital, and then, the first part of induction. And then if you're doing well, they let you do outpatient for the rest of it, but you're at the hospital every day going back and forth. So the first month you're in the hospital, not allowed to leave, not allowed to see anyone, nothing. And then I got to go home. But I was there every day on strict protocols, masks, not allowed to go into the public, wasn't allowed to do my own grocery shopping, couldn't see my friends, like nothing for 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
And your parents were in another country?
They were. And then when I was released, my dad did come down to be my caregiver, which was very generous of him because, you can't do that by yourself. There's no way. Like back then too, that's, grocery delivery didn't even exist yet or anything like that. So, you really need someone there to help you clean because you can't clean. You can't, go get groceries. You can't go get your own meds. You can't do anything. You have no immune system. So yeah, he was my caregiver for a good portion of that. And then
was that during the 6 months or after?
That's during.
Oh
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's just me and my dad in my tiny little apartment for a while. And during that time too, actually, I guess my stepmom did come down. I keep getting messed around with the timelines, but yeah, so the only thing I was allowed to do was go outside and walk and just be very careful. And so tried to go on a little walk with the small amount of energy I had every day. And that was my life for 6 months. That and going to the hospital every day and getting chemo and being nauseous and not feeling great. But I was very lucky.
You felt terrible, right? From the chemo?
Oh, yeah. You feel horrible. Horrible.
and you know you're gonna get more the next day, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. My cycles for 7 days straight. And then you kind of get 2, 3 weeks off, and then it's a bell curve, kind of goes like this. But I unfortunately have a very bad history with nausea, so there was nothing that could control my nausea.
oh,
So it was pretty challenging for me with the nausea.
so were you just throwing up all day, or you just felt?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. We were attached to a toilet for most of that experience.
oh.
Yeah. Yeah,
So your father was?
fun.
Did he just take off work, or was he retired? Like, how did he just do? I mean, obviously you're his baby, but and what about your mom? Was she around or no?
My dad, so he worked remotely, and his
Oh,
organization was super flexible, which was great.
oh,
So they kind of let him do what he needed to do. And then my mom just was not in a position to be there and support. So yeah, she wasn't super involved.
okay. And was she in Alaska too? She,
No, she lives in a different province in the country. My parents aren't together now.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, but that's right. It was COVID, so everyone was pretty much remote. So, well, that's good.
Yeah.
You do that. That's
Yeah.
really nice. It must have been horrible for him to watch you go through that, though.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's the thing, like you're dealing with your own reality changing and what you knew to be your normal not be your normal, with the fear of what's coming, what's happening, where is this going to be. But I mean, you also deal with the weight of knowing that you're carrying a burden of how your friends and family are processing all of this. And I know, like, I mean, it goes both ways, right? There's a burden on either side, but yeah, there's just a lot of things within the cancer journey that's not really spoken about, and a lot of it is just based around fear and trying to get through it, and honestly, like, not really being encouraged to enjoy it or find positive experiences within that. And the first time I was diagnosed, as sick as I was, I still had a pretty positive mindset, but it's a heavy place to be. But as I kind of continue to regress and learn and get re-diagnosed and different things, which will come, but your reality and your perspective shift a lot, because it's not an easy thing to go through, let alone multiple times. So at some point, you just have to say to yourself, like, I have a choice in how I navigate this. Like, this scenario doesn't get to rule my life, and I have to find ways to actually live, because why the hell am I fighting so hard if I don't actually live through this?
So, so your anxiety from growing up, did that just take a back seat? I mean, did you just overcome it? Like, how did that factor in? I mean, I would think you'd be scared, but like you said, you have to get through every day.
Yeah.
How did the anxiety factor into this?
Yeah, I mean, with time, I mean, it wasn't something like, that there was a flip of a switch by any means, but with time, over the years of my multiple diagnosis, you just start to look at life differently. And with that perspective, anxiety starts to fade, because I mean, one, it still is a conscious choice to show up in the world the way that you do and push yourself to do things that are hard, even if they're scary. And I mean, I still get, like, nervous whenever I have to go and, like, get my hip drilled or something. These aren't fun things. I just don't let it rule my life. I let it be part of the experience that fuels me to want to live more. And I think it's more about, like, not so much ignoring the anxiety, but understanding where is it coming from, and then being able to name it and being able to then shift how that fuels how you show up.
Cool. Yeah, I would think that, um, wait, what did you say? Like, being afraid to be seen and all that would take a back seat to surviving that,
Yes.
right? Like, it wouldn't seem as important, or no, am I making that up?
No, no, I
Right.
mean, your survival is most definitely the
Yeah.
most important. But but it's still hard, right? I mean, you go through so many changes where it's like, you can't work. So, and work for me at that time in my life was really fulfilling to me. You can't see your friends, and I have a beautiful community of friends that are like family. You lose your hair, so like you don't look the same. So
Right.
the anxiety in its own ways is still there because you don't know remotely who you are when you look in the mirror, and everything that once defined you has now been stripped away from you. And so to rebuild your life from kind of scratch in a way, like it's a scary thing, right? So the anxiety is there. I think it just shows up in different ways, but then you also have that polarity of saying, but I get to be here, so I need to find ways through this.
Yeah. All right. So you keep talking about your second diagnosis. So that was the first 6 months. Your dad was
Yeah.
there. It was during COVID, but hard enough anyway. Okay. Not seeing friends, not working. Yeah. Okay. And then what happens?
So then I got into remission at the end of the 6 months. Super excited. And I was very lucky to be in remission for 2 years. So during that 2 years, I went back to work. My hair slowly started growing back. I definitely saw a shift in how I showed up in the world through that because of that experience. But it was still taking some time getting adjusted. And to be honest, like some of the hardest times that I had during all of my cancer experiences is the reintegration into the world. They don't really talk about that a lot, is that, you're at the hospital every day, you're seeing the nurses every day, you're seeing the doctors every day, like they become your family. And when all of a sudden you're just thrown back into the real world one day and they're like, hey, go live your life. You're like, how do I just live a life when I've been isolated? I don't have hair. I don't have energy. Like the transition was really, really hard. But once I figured that out and I started to get my groove and I finally felt like I was running for a little bit, I relapsed. And that was, so 2 years after.
It's sort of, before we get into the relapse, it's sort of like you were in prison and you got out of prison and you had to go into normal life, right? Imagine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you were almost behind bars, although feeling crappy, so it's worse. And then they let you out.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's such an isolating disease. And so I think anything where you're in isolation and then however that may look and then re-enter the new world, like it's going to be jarring.
So did your dad have to stay isolated too so that he didn't get any germs? So he wasn't allowed out either, right?
Yeah, so he was only allowed to go out for necessities, so grocery shopping, picking up meds, but he wasn't supposed to be going out and going to concerts or doing anything crazy.
Right. Oh my gosh. All right. Let's go to the commercial break and then we'll talk about your relapse and the difference that you want to make and, your new perspective. How's that? Sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay. All right. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Hey friends, it's Hilary, and I want to share something that genuinely shifted how I see modern and contemporary art, and honestly, how I see the world. If you've ever felt like modern or contemporary art just wasn't for you, like you were supposed to understand it before you could enjoy it, you're not alone. And that's exactly what Robin Jameson turns upside down. Through innovative tours, talks, trainings, and educational programs, Robin doesn't explain art or tell you what to think. She guides you into actually experiencing it, personally, directly, and in a way that is powerful, moving, and even life-altering. She's also the author of The Magic of Modern Art, How to Love Modern and Contemporary Art. And what she shows people is this: you already have an innate affinity for all types of art. Through Robin's work, you are awakened to more than just a new, confident, and joyful relationship with art. You begin to see everything with fresh eyes, feeling more curious, open, and alive in the world. If you're looking to create a powerful, memorable experience for yourself, museum, organization, or community, visit magicofmodernart.com or email Robin, Robyn, at magicofmodernart.com and discover what's possible when art and life truly come alive. Thank you, as always, to our sponsors. We appreciate all your support and generosity in making this show available. You'll see the commercials and also the logos going down underneath the show. So thank you again. And welcome back. We're going to hear the rest of the story with Ashley. Welcome back. So I'm afraid to hear about the relapse, but go ahead. Tell us what happened. You were
Thank you.
remission. Yeah, 2 years in remission.
Yeah, 2 years in remission. And then, during that remission, they monitor you pretty closely. You go for a weekly blood work just so that if something changes, they're able to pick up on it pretty quickly. So I had gone for my regular weekly blood work right before Christmas, and something looked off. I knew something was off, so they wanted to retest.
You could feel it?
Couldn't really feel it, but you get really, through all of this, you get really in tune with your body and your trends on your blood work and what's normal, what's not. And just, I work with numbers. Like, numbers are kind of my strong suit per se, my geeky strong suit. And so I just knew something in the trend was off. And so I called my doctor, and she's like, "Oh no, you might just be sick." And I was like, "No, let's run it and run it with a different layer to it." And sure enough, it was there. So it was very low levels, and because we were able to catch it early, but that now meant that I had to be readmitted right before Christmas.
Wow.
And start treatment again. So this would have been Christmas of 2022. And then because it had come back and is choosing to be a bit more stubborn than we would like to see, that meant I had to go through a full stem cell transplant this time. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, which was my fear from the get-go, was that I didn't want to have to go through that, because I've heard rumors of how intense that they are. And so I think going back to the anxiety and the fear of just, getting through the first diagnosis and living life after the fact, as much I was less anxious, I was still so terrified that I was going to relapse. I probably thought about it every single day, multiple times a day, of I'm not going to relapse. I'm not going to relapse, almost coaching myself through it. So when I got the word that I had relapsed and that I needed a stem cell transplant, it was a really hard pill to swallow. And again, it's a super aggressive disease. So I had to start treatment right away. So that Christmas and that New Year's, I was in the hospital, preparing for a stem cell transplant that I would later have in March of 2023.
And where do they get those stem cells?
So in my case, I had an unrelated donor that was 100% match. There's a global registry that they have access to, and they look for various variables to determine if someone can be a match for you. I was lucky to somehow have 4 matches, so the doctors chose the one that they thought would be the best. But yeah, if ever, small plug on that, if ever you've been curious to sign up to be a stem cell donor, it's so easy. You just swab your cheek, you request a kit through, Blood Cancer United or Leukemia and Lymphoma or Canadian Cancer Society. There's tons of organizations that send you the kits. You just swab your cheek, you send it back. You may never get a phone call. And if you do, and if you end up having the opportunity to donate, most of the time nowadays, it's not as barbaric as it used to be. You just essentially give blood for a few hours. They take the stem cells out of the blood similar as they would kind of through like a dialysis process. They put the remaining blood back in and you've donated. So like it's that easy to literally save someone's life. And in my case, I was lucky to have 4 matches because of my background. But you know, there's not often that high of probability, especially in individuals who have mixed race backgrounds. So the more donors that we can have in the registry, the more lives we can save.
Wow.
Yeah.
So was it terrible, the transplant? Was it as bad as you had heard? Like, what do they do?
So you know what's funny is like there's so much hype around this transplant and that what they call the conditioning and the salvage leading up to it, that wasn't fun. Like that was pretty intense chemo. I got pretty sick. I had an infection going into transplant. And I was honestly convinced I wasn't going to survive it because I was really not doing well the morning of transplant. But the transplant itself, it's like, it's no different than getting a platelet transfusion. You have your central line, they hang up the bag, the cells just flow into you, and you're done.
Wow.
And then it's a waiting game, and you wait to see if the cells graft into your body. Hopefully they do, without attacking your old, cells and organs too much, because obviously that can kill you through graft versus host disease.
Oh.
But you want a little bit of it. And if you graft well, your body and bone marrow will start making new blood cells and new blood and everything. And if all is well, you're good to go. But again, they monitor you for a very long time.
So the cancer goes away?
Yeah, so essentially they wipe your old immune system. They bring in a new immune system with the stem cells. Hopefully that new immune system grows through the new stem cells. And if there is any residual disease of the old, the new ones recognize that as foreign objects and they attack it and they kill it. So basically it's a type of immunotherapy in a sense.
Oh.
And yeah, you graft, you have to be 100 days isolation. They track you really closely for your 100 days post-transplant. And then if at 100 days you're in remission and there's no signs of disease, you're free to go back into the world again.
That must be a terrifying 100 days though. Woo.
Yeah, and a lot happens. I mean, you don't think about or even realize like how much of a role our immune system plays for us. And way more than just even, the common cold or whatever it may be. You are constantly getting blood transfusions every single day, multiple times a day, because your body isn't making its own blood yet or its own platelets or anything. So like you're literally surviving on blood transfusions.
Were you in the hospital? Were you living in the hospital?
So you're in the hospital again for like the first 30-ish days, and then they do everything else outpatient. So you're there every day, every 2 days, depending on what's going on. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a lot. You're tired. You don't feel good. You have no immune system. So like you get what's called mucositis, like all of your mouth and all of your GI tract just turns into open sores. So you can't eat, you can't drink, you're on a feeding tube. Like there's a lot that happens that we don't realize when you don't have a functioning immune system.
Okay. All right. So you made it through. And then what happens? We have about, 12 minutes. So we got to get rest and your transformation in 12 minutes. All right. Go ahead.
Right.
Yeah, no.
We'll go quick. So get through that. Again, transition back to normal life for the second time growing my hair back, second time going back to work. Hard transition, but starting to gain a bit more confidence and have a bit more perspective on life after going through this twice. And again, doing well, but then about a year after, little things start popping up. They start giving me some monthly doses of chemo to keep levels really low. It's working. It stops working. They add in another drug. It's working. It stops working. They give me more stem cells. It's working. It stops working. I enter a clinical trial. It's working. It stops working. And now I'm fully relapsed again with active disease.
And what year was it? What year was this?
all like last year and current. Yeah.
Shit. Shoot. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I've been working through all this up until very recently. I chose to take a step back because of entering a clinical trial and just not sure, sure how things are going to go. So all in all, I've had around, I think, 8 lines of treatment and like hundreds, if not thousands, doses of chemo. So I've kind of been through a lot of different perspectives of this disease. And I live alone otherwise too. So I'm working. This is me navigating it by myself. And so eventually I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm going to be miserable because this is just like, this might not leave my life fully in the way that I think it might. And I might need to come to the acceptance that I can live with this. Like, what if I can actually just live my life with this and we find ways to keep it at bay? Maybe I don't fully ever get into remission, or maybe I do, whatever it may be. But instead of fearing a relapse, because clearly now I've been through 3 of them, like, how do I find a way to live this and actually then live the life I'm fighting so hard to experience? And then that's when everything started to shift for me, when, the fear left, the anxiety left, the way that I now realize that like the external does not control us. Like, it is up to us to choose how we want to approach what is happening around us. And it obviously doesn't mean it's not scary still at times, but when you start to realize like you have the power to change your external environment rather than letting it control you, man, life becomes so much easier, even if the hardest times. And like right now, I'm not on treatment. I'm trying to see if I can find a clinical trial. It's proving harder than I thought it would, just because most clinical trials are often full. So, and like, I'm the happiest person I've ever been. So, which sounds crazy.
No, but so when you said you have the power to change your external, what did you mean by that? Can you say more?
Yeah. So, I mean, the way that I see it is that like we're so focused on, if this happens to me, this is how I respond, or this is how I should respond, or because I know that this is something that's hard to navigate, I have to be sad, or I can't be happy, or whatever the rationale may be. But when you kind of flip that equation, you say, okay, this is what's happening in front of me. In what way can I show up to still bring light into the situation? Or what way can I show up to still bring help and positivity, or be the best version of myself, even on my darkest days? When you show up in a way that just like elevates the room and elevates the energy and the frequency, honestly, of that space, it completely changes the way that you experience things, right? And I mean, it might be something as simple as like the person that you're talking to or the nurse that is talking to you is in a better mood, and therefore you have a better day at the hospital, to being like, people are maybe more inclined to help you and build a relationship with you. And you never know what seeds you plant at certain times, even unconsciously, how they can grow in the future. And throughout this entire journey, like there's seeds that I just didn't even know I was planting that have come up, and opportunities that have showed up where, now I have the privilege to sit on councils with Leukemia and Lymphoma Society and speak on these topics. I have the opportunity to build partnerships with LSC and some other organizations to support patients going through cancer. I am able to hopefully source my own clinical trial that doesn't currently exist because of the connections I've made by just showing up and being curious and like being happy as much as I can through all of this. And doesn't mean it's going to save my life and get rid of this thing once and for all, but I honestly think I have a bit of a fighting chance, right? And you just never know the weight of the interactions that you have, and you have the ability to change how you show up. It's not your external.
All right. So can you give an example of how you would have been before and how you would have been now, just so people can understand the difference?
Yeah. I think before, like, I would have had so much anxiety that even just speaking, having much of an interaction with anyone, or if anyone even talked to me about the topic, as much as I was positive in my mind, I was so nervous to say something that wasn't real, that I'd be like, yeah, but it's not going to happen, or this isn't going to be the way it is, because I never wanted to feel like I wasn't being 100% accurate. And in my mind, I was terrified. And so that was a really hard thing for me to show up in such a challenging situation and say like, yeah, I'm having the best time, and I'm going to find a way through this, and just like, I'm so lucky to have the interactions that I do with the people at the hospital. Like, anything like that would have been impossible for me to say. Whereas now it's like, I really do genuinely move through life being like, wow, I'm so privileged to have the connections and have my nurses be my family, and have a mindset where it's like, I don't take no as an answer, and I show up in different ways. And I know I have the ability to go into the darkest rooms and bring light, and the experiences that I've had through these 5 years, like, can help other patients. And so I try to talk to people at the hospital. I try to, join organizations. So, like, my responsibility, as I see it, is to show up with as much light as possible, and what comes from it will come from it. But me being miserable and being afraid to speak, or being anxious, or fearing the future, everything I have feared has come true. So I may as well live my life.
What do you think was the moment that if you can pinpoint it, that it changed? Do you know?
I think it's when I was on kind of like the maintenance chemo, and we were trying to keep it at bay, that I began the shift of being like, okay, of course I'm fearing that this is going to come back, but would it actually be the worst thing if I just found a way to live life with this? Like, what would that look like? And when I started to kind of shift and change that perspective and challenge myself and actually exercise that in my life, and like, yes, my life looks a little bit different. I have to be careful with my immune system on certain things and whatnot. But when I started building a life that made sense for me and finding ways to still live it and do the things that I loved, I was like, wow, this isn't really that bad. Like, this is a privilege to be in this position and to experience life in a way that I actually want to experience it, right? Like, we often live life for others and not for ourselves, and I get to do it for me, which is pretty freaking cool.
So what is the privilege part? Just living life, or the experience, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think the big question is like, how do we even define what living looks like? And I know that sounds like such a basic question, but it's really not, because we need to look at it and remove everything that isn't serving us directly. And that means like, it's easy for me to say this in some ways and others not, but where it's just like, are we living because we have to, because, we have kids that we have to depend on, or that depend on us? Like, if that's the case, what is something within that you can still do to make you feel alive? Like, obviously we all have to work, right? But like, what are other things that actually like feed our soul? And when you really start focusing and understanding what that definition looks like for you, and what your non-negotiables are, and what your minimum standards are, you start building a life slowly and slowly and slowly, that then becomes you actually living a life versus just like being in the rat race every single day. So and why are we all here to like live in a rat race? Like, that's not the point of any of this. The point of this is to be curious and to explore and to learn and like grow as people.
So it sounds like you're going from survival to joy.
Yeah. It's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all have the two sides. You know what I mean? I have one of my books, it talked about the two sides of life, and one is like everything sucks and let's just try to survive, and the other is, whoa, what's possible? Let's create, fun. And it's like being a schizophrenic almost. You know what I mean? Like, you can be both. And so I started devoting my life to how do we spend more time on the fun side, And it's
totally, and it's not like a flip of a switch, right? Like, it takes time, but it's like, it's almost like a little game, like you're saying, right? Like, when you start to make small shifts, you see small rewards, and you're like, ooh, this is kind of fun. And like, you jump in a little bit further and a little bit further and a little bit further. And like,
feel happy. Whoa, look at this.
Yeah. And like, it doesn't mean bad things aren't going to happen to you, or hard things, I should say, aren't going to happen to you. Like, that is also part of life. We need we need contrast in life to appreciate life, right?
Right.
But it's going to be how big are like the dips when you are faced with these things. And I think the goal is to kind of just be as stable as you can, because there's beauty in the darkness too. There's beauty in the light. There's beauty in all of this. But like our goal, we're not here on earth to just like work and be numb. Like that's not why we're here. We're meant to live.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much. Yeah, I think awareness. I think once you're aware, like awake, then you have a choice. If you're not awake, you don't have a choice. But anyway, in the last minute, what would you like to leave people with? How can they find you? What would you like to say in closing?
Yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to chat. It was so lovely. And it's so cool how we met too, right? Like there are always these little serendipitous moments in life. And again, you never know the seeds that you plant and who you're going to meet on your journey. And so it's really cool. I'm happy we were able to connect. And I do post about my story on TikTok. My handle is healing.the.hard.way. So I think we'll post it. But so if you want to
What?
Healing the hard way with like a period between all the words.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
With the dots. Healing.the.hard.way. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you can get an update on where I'm at in my journey and just, some of the introspective thoughts I also have. But yeah, if I'm going to leave people with anything, I think it's just, if ever you feel like life is hard or, you're struggling to find the joy in it, I can promise you, even in the darkest of situations, it is possible. It's not easy, but it's possible. And, I think if you just take a step back and ask yourself like how you're controlling your life and showing up versus the other way around, that in itself can lead to a lot of awareness.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. All right. Thank you so much, Ashley. Don't forget to tune into her TikTok, healing.the.hard.way.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for watching this episode. I started getting real with Hilary when I discovered that I was a people-pleasing, pleasant phony and wanted to be more of my real self. We can grow together if you will like the show, subscribe to my channel, and share this episode with your friends and family so that we can have a world that's more real.